Okay, next presentations, we have a recreation update.
Give me a quick second. Where'd your presentation go? Sorry. All prepared and I dropped the ball. Of course, it's going very slow. So this is your talent portion time.
Oh, okay.
No, here, you need a mask,
Sorry.
It's a front row. All right, now you ready?
I'm ready. Alrighty, good evening, everybody. My name is Christina Geary. I've been with the Parks and Rec Department for 4 years now, and I have been a recreation specialist for a little more than a year now. So pretty familiar with a lot that we got going on. So I'm going to do a quick recap on basically everything that we did during spring and summer. So we're going to go ahead and start off with our summer youth basketball. That is one of our most successful programs. We currently are ending the summer youth basketball season. We have 188 participants, 4 divisions, ages 6 through 14. So they're placed in divisions based on their age. So we currently have 20 total teams, 7 total games. Summer season is a bit shorter than winter season, just due to school schedules. So practices began week of May 30th. We have 20 volunteer coaches, 20 plus, including all of the assistant coaches. It is a 7-game season, June 18th through August 6th. So if you guys haven't had a chance to make it out there, there's still 2 games. They're on Saturdays. The last game is Saturday, August 6th. Alrighty, and next slide.
Come on. There it goes.
Perfect. Alrighty, so we are currently nearing the end of our swim lessons. So we are actually in basically the last, I'll let you guys watch it.
You can go.
Okay. Oh, it's not playing the sound. It has a little sound to it. Okay, no worries. So we do have morning lessons at Rubidoux High School, evening lessons at Harupa Valley High School. We have 255 total classes offered in the morning and evening. Those classes include parent and child, preschool aquatics, levels 1 through 6, adult lessons, and junior lifeguard camp. So in total, we have had 1,255 total participants this summer. That is almost 200 more than we had last year in 2021. So we are definitely growing. It's been very successful. I've had a chance to go out there myself, and it's so nice seeing all those kids in there, and even the adults. It's almost nicer seeing the adults out there, because they go out there with a bit of trauma sometimes, and seeing them actually dive in and swimming, it's amazing. So we have a really good team out there. Alrighty, next slide, please. Okay, so another thing that goes along with swim lessons is the First 5 Riverside Scholarship. So that has also been very successful this year. I also oversaw the one from 2021, and I've definitely seen a lot more people coming in for those scholarships. So that's so great to see. We were given $3,900 total funding from First 5 Riverside. We have expended $3,350 of that total funding. 2,500 was allocated to 100% scholarship. So that was 50 scholarships where participants did not have to pay anything at all. And then $850 from those funds were allocated for 50% scholarships. So swim lessons were $50. So if they received 50% scholarships, they just had to pay $25, which is a great help to a lot of people. So we allocated 17 50% scholarships, 50 100% scholarships. In total, we had 67 scholarships. And scholarships are awarded based on HUD income guidelines. Alrighty, and 3rd of July was a great success, a beautiful event, beautiful venue. I love that site. We had about 5,000 estimated attendees, 708 parked cars. So we had 5 different lots. They were all really full. It was great to see. We had 15 food vendors that came out. That's 5 more than we had from the previous in-person event, which was actually 2019. So the last in-person one. We are already planning ways to improve the layout as well as planning ways on how to enhance the event for next year. And yesterday, no, today's Thursday, 2 days ago, Tuesday, July 26th, we concluded our summer series concerts in the park. We had 5 concerts which went through June 14th through July 26th. We had an estimated attendance of about 150 to 250 people per concert, 5 to 10 craft vendors per concert, 2 to 3 food vendors per concert. And of course, we are definitely already communicating and planning ways how to enhance this event as well. Alrighty, and for rentals, I oversee the Jurupa Community Center and the park shelter rentals. So we had 16 total rentals at the Jurupa Community Center since January 1 of this year. And we have had 84 total park shelter rentals since January 1 of this year. So park shelters are very popular. And that concludes my recap. Does anyone have any questions or anything that you guys would like clarification on? Anyone? No. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Know what happened.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have public comments. And we have on items that are not on the agenda. And we just have one, Lorena Carranza. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Lorena Carranza. I'm a resident of Mira Loma for 23 years. And I'm also part of a large group of Mira Loma residents. We have a neighborhood group. It's called Historic Mira Loma. I have a few members of our group here joining us today. They're wearing our shirts and our logo very proudly. And what I'm here today is to let you know that we are very excited to know that there's a possibility of getting a park on Marlett Street, 1054. And I would like to know if you guys can share any information with us, anything that you can tell us, any updates, anything like that. Hopefully good news, because having a park in Mira Loma will be awesome.
Because it's not agendized item, it's not something the board can comment on. But if you stick around for the meeting, at the end of the meeting, I can give you some very vague updates.
Absolutely, absolutely, that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I'm here for. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Joanna Silva.
Thank you for having me. My name is Joanna. I'm here on behalf of the Inland Equity Partnership Land Trust. I work with Maribel Nunez. And I just wanted to come in and attend your meeting, say hello, see what this is all about. Maribel and I have been doing a lot of work in the community here in Jurupa Valley. We've been canvassing in the local neighborhoods, trying to see voter engagement, as well as offering resources that are available, such as the Cal EITC tax credits for many of the community members. So that's just some of the work that we are doing here in Jurupa Valley. And most importantly, I'm just kind of happy to be here and excited to see what this meeting is about.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay. Next is our consent calendar. Is there any, it just seems to be the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions or corrections? If not,
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
anybody else? No? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, next is board action items. 5.1, request to partner with the city of Ruby Valley for Veterans Day.
Yes, Madam President. We do have representatives from the city here. Mike Flad, Assistant City Manager, and Devin Fisher is on Zoom, who is your administrative
Analyst.
analyst. Thank you. About 4 or 5 months ago now, the city approached the district. They're looking at doing a Veterans Parade this November 12th in Rubidoux down Mission. And they have approached the district about partnering with them and helping put the parade on. One of the reasons for this is we have the expertise, specialty and stuff like this. And it's something that the city doesn't necessarily have some of the manpower day of event. What they're asking for us is their help in putting on this parade. Really would not be financially as it would be in kind sponsorship with staffing. We have a great relationship with the city of Rupa Valley. Just at the July 3rd event, they partnered with us and sponsored the sheriffs, which is a huge sponsorship for that event for a number of years. So with that, I know Mike is available for any questions. I don't know if you want to say anything. Or Deb, we put Deb on the spot, let her talk.
Yeah, I think she's on her way here, but I can just say just a couple things real quick. Just one, just on the partnership, and again, I'm Mike Flatt, I'm the assistant city manager, and just how we view sort of the parks is just such a tremendous asset that the city of Rupa Valley has by having the Parks District, and our relationship with Colby couldn't be better and couldn't be stronger. And so thank you, Colby, for coming to the city council meetings and making presentations and updating the council and staff with all the things that are going on. And this is just one more example of a way that we are hoping that we can partner. And we've already assembled a committee that is helping to organize and plan the event. And again, the council has allocated most of the funding for the event. And if additional funds are needed, they've already stated that staff is to come back and ask for additional funds. So this isn't a financial request as much as just, as Colby mentioned, a partnership with regards to staffing and day of the event. And it's a Veterans Day parade. So a day after Veterans Day, November 12th is the plan. So far, the intended route is along Mission Boulevard through Rubidoux and culminating, an event culminating, the parade itself won't culminate at Flabob Airport, but to coordinate and culminate with the Flabob Airport's Veterans Day event. So I think it's gonna be a great community building event. And just really, I wanted to just take a couple seconds just to thank you all for what is a growing partnership. We're still relatively young and newest city in California. I've only been there a year and a half. I've been doing this for over 32 years with other cities, but I think when I got there was 25 employees. Now we have 90. So we're growing like crazy and trying to be a much better partner in these events than we have in the past in terms of our commitment and the resources that we're able to bring to bear. But so thank you for your patience in the past. And if there's any questions that we can answer or anything we can take back to the planning committee, if you have any concerns or questions, we're happy to do that. And thank you. Thanks for hearing me out. And when Devin gets here, I'll introduce her. She's kind of the city's point person for this event. She was at the July 3rd event. Applaud lady, if you were wearing a city shirt, it would have been Devin. And you're going to see a lot more of her and hear a lot more from her and city staff as we continue to add folks. So thank you for the time.
Attached to the staff report is kind of a spreadsheet of what we're looking at, versus what we would be doing versus the city. Logistics leading up to it are not extremely intense. Most of the logistics, from my experience doing a number of parades, really is going to fall back on the city getting the event. It's the road closures, the advertising and stuff like that. Through our recreation software, we're taking the registrations and stuff for the event. So it's going to take literally no staff time whatsoever. Very, very minimal. So I don't feel this is going to be a huge impact of us other than day of. But again, it's not something that we're going to have a issue on. And Devin just walked in, so.
I already introduced you, so you just have to wave and you're good.
So would that be available for any questions?
Where would the route start?
The route would start right on Mission and Rubidoux. And then one side will be completely blocked. And then going towards Riverside. And then on the other side, it would be a portion of it blocked off for allowing people to gather in those areas. Yep, and then it would go all the way to Daly Street and then they would destage at our operations facility.
Yeah, so beginning staging at that Cardenas site right on the corner of Mission
Yeah.
and the terminus of Lamonite, I think it's called a different street.
Riverview.
And then, yeah, and then heading towards Riverside and then culminating at the operations center of the cities for people, equestrian people to re-trailer or do whatever you all do, whatever you need, and then floats and those types of things. So we need a staging area at both ends.
De-staging for the band, stuff like that. Part of it is, with working with the sheriff's department on the preliminary, keeping traffic flow still going, at Rubidoux and Mission is a heavy intersection. People would still be able to turn right, coming south on Rubidoux, so be able to turn right and head towards Lake Riverbend. Traffic coming from Riverside would be forced up Wallace, was it? So, they're trying to maintain as much traffic flow as possible. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a huge bottleneck. And then also they can go down Crestmore Trail.
Right.
Yeah, they have both the areas of Crestmore available to travel north and south.
And then the encouragement is to send people over to the airport. They've had a historic Veterans Day event. And encourage more people to participate in that as well.
So our contribution, in addition to the things ahead of time, which as you pointed out is very minimal, would be the staff on the day of. We would be bearing that cost.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's majority gonna be our part-time staff, a couple of full-time staff, we'd be flexing hours on anyways. So it's not gonna be an impact on our budget. in any means.
Okay. Well, I mean, the part-time staff wouldn't.
We would be absorbing those costs, yes.
And I noticed that we're doing some things that have a cost, such as order dignitary signage. I mean, it's not a high cost.
Yeah, and we haven't worked out the logistics on that, just through some of our contacts, it would be reimbursable, or we would just, hey, send in invoice to Devin type of a deal.
Okay.
So we're gonna figure this out, but our staff a lot of what we're doing, we do it for our events anyways. So it's kind of like, why recreate the wheel? So
Gotcha.
Stage rental, what's that?
there's a dignitary stage they're looking at. Again, we have contacts for stage rental things, so.
Like from the school district or something like that?
We haven't decided what we're doing, if we're gonna look at the JCSD one, or like, was that July 3rd, or if you want to bring out a regular traditional flat stage, so. Some of those logistics are still need to be finalized, but again, most of it's just our contacts and streamlining those processes.
Mr. Castellano Cardenas, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So would that include the securing the convertibles as well?
Yeah, so that's what we'll be working with. There's a number of, it's not on this spreadsheet, but there's a number of car clubs that have already contacted the city about participating. And that's where we're looking to get the convertibles for dignitaries. New car companies just don't make convertibles anymore. And the ones that do are just not conducive to put elected officials sitting up on them waiting. There's seat rests and head rests, and they're fiberglass and they break, and you need a classic, you need a nice 56 Caddy or something like that, so.
Okay, so what is it you need?
Just need a motion.
I will make a motion. I move the board of directors approve the partnership with the city of Rupa Valley for Veterans Day Parade.
All second.
Any other comments? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Quick and easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike and Devin.
Pardon us leaving. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, item 5.2, discussion of possible action, declare surplus for property.
Yes, we have some property that we are no longer in need of, one being the 20-foot mow trailer, essentially what we refer to it as. Now that we are no longer doing any of that in-house, we're contracting all, it's literally just taking up space right now. And then we also have a John Deere tractor that has sat in our maintenance shed for at least 6 years. It was originally a tractor for mowing. It has been upgraded. We have the bigger Kubota now. It's just not needed. With the new staff we're bringing on later this year, frankly, we need the storage space for vehicles. And this stuff still has value to it. So while the market's high right now, we would like to surplus this out and have it sold at auction.
My first question is this, John Deere tractor stuff that we use for like grading trails or leveling, doing.
Now, if you look at the picture there, it's got a turf tire on it. Anytime we take it off road, as you zoom in on it there, it's got turf tire. It doesn't do anything. It just spins its wheels. It's not 4-wheel drive, it's only 2-wheel drive. This was made for really mowing the lawn. It used to have a mow deck under it. It was made for mowing, and then the bucket could pick up like 2 bags of concrete. It's not a very usable,
Not a heavy duty.
not a heavy duty piece of equipment, It's just, it still runs, but it's nothing that we can use for anything. So anymore. And then the trailer here, it's good open, we purchased a couple of years ago. Looking at the Fred Porter auctions, the one.
Ken Porter.
Ken Porter, I'm sorry, right here on Galena. It's in compliance with the public resource code for public notifications and selling it. They get very good return on their.
That's not the trailer we've been using for our parade floats.
Nope, not our parade float. It's the ramp in the back, the high sides. It's not conducive. We have the dump trailer that guys use for all that type of stuff. And then we have the flatbed trailer that tows around the tractors. This just, right now, it's like you can say, taking up space.
Any other questions? Someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I move the board of directors declare a 20-foot Carson trailer and John Deere tractor as surplus property and authorize them to be sold at auction.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, and then 5.3 is a discussion of possible authorization for the purchase of 2 new F-150 maintenance vehicles in the amount not to exceed $69,223.34.
And actually, there's a typo in the recommendation there. I apologize. It should be the 69,223. So if we make that motion, if we can please
Get rid
correct
of,
that, yes.
I'm sorry, it should be, so the 34 cents, no?
No, it says 23,624 in the recommendation.
Oh, I see.
I just popped that up. I don't know how we missed that when we were going through this. But now that we're going to get rid of some equipment, we have a place to put some new trucks. As you know, we are hiring a new maintenance person for the addition of the 3 Shadow Rock parks that are coming online later this year, as well as the other 38 parks within our system. So that new individual will need a vehicle to go with it. It's something that has been budgeted for in the current operating budget, as well as the replacement of our 1-ton dually crew cab pickup truck that went along with our mow crew. When we contracted out for the maintenance of our facility, we no longer needed 3 and 4 people on a vehicle. As we spread those individuals out to their own vehicles and their own parks, we literally have a guy driving around in the biggest truck we have all day by himself. And I don't care what he's doing, what he's pulling, he gets 8 miles to the gallon. If he's pulling a heavy load or he's pulling nothing, he gets 8 miles to the gallon. Looking at this, it's just no longer an efficient vehicle for us to be maintaining as part of our fleet. We just don't need it. So we're proposing replacing that as part of the budget, and just budget for a second purchase of a second vehicle. And then when the vehicles come in, that the Chevy would be, the dually would be a surplus out as well. We're just not doing that right now because you see here in the staff report, as we all know, there is a long wait time on vehicles. They're not anticipating these coming in until March of next year. So we're getting a great price on them, far below any of the local vendors, what they could do. Nobody could touch the state contract that we're piggybacking off of. But the caveat is we've got a 6-month wait for them to come in. It's not going to impact us greatly. We'll still be able to get around. But with that, I'm available for any questions.
We've checked into local.
Yep. And they were significantly more.
Like?
These are coming in, tax license, everything, 34,000, and they were closer to 40. They're just downtown Sacramento Ford, who has a contract for the state. The caveat, just the understanding is you just gotta wait for it to come in. Typically, when we ordered this vehicle, the same vehicle, about 3.5 years ago, it was about a 6-week lead time. Not a big deal. But now we're 6 months. That's just the caveat right now. We can go out and buy something else from through a dealer, do a public bid on it. But I know local agencies are doing that and going to buy it, the dealer's already sold it. So they are in need of vehicles right now. So they're getting what they can. And it's the government pricing that we were able to get before from a local is just not the same anymore. So.
And I just have one other question. How does the dealership in Sacramento get us the vehicles?
So included in there is the shipping. They literally ship them down here on a flatbed trailer. I did go back and compare this to the last time we purchased a truck through the same, the contract was expired and re-upped in 2021. The same truck at that time cost us, our out the door price was at $29,000. It's gone up about $5,000. But the unique thing was the delivery fee that time was only $300. Now it's gone up to $1,000. Everything, as we know, has gone up, and especially with the price of fuel. So.
Anyone else have any questions? Hearing none.
The motion's not correct, is it?
I
So the
didn't
motion,
anyone have any?
the total of both of them should be 69 as in the title of the report. 69 and change. 69, 223.
34, that's all that is
34.
changed, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, does someone want to make the motion? I wrote it down. Would you like me to make the motion?
Sure.
I move the board of directors accept the bid from Downtown Ford under the state of California contract for the purchase of two 2023 Ford F-150 Super Cab pickup trucks in the amount of $69,223.34 delivered.
All second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Judy Quinn, 5.4, adoption of resolution 2022-25, declaring the month of July as Parks Make Life a Better Month.
Yes, as you all know, July is Parks Make Life Better Month. I apologize, this resolution should have come before us earlier in the month. Unfortunately, it just kind of slipped through the cracks there. But we want to make sure that we recognize this. We have a wonderful staff. They do a phenomenal job. We just want to make sure that it's known that the board's supporting what's going on, and this is something we approve on an annual basis. So thank you for your consideration.
My opinion was I would suggest that we do this the last meeting in June.
Yeah. Someone like to make a motion?
I move that the board of directors adopt resolution number 2022-52, a resolution of the board of directors of the Barupa Area Recreation and Park District, declaring July 2022 as Parks Make Life Better Month.
Have a second? Yep, you seconded it, Mr.
Yes,
Okay.
I didn't want to step on your shoulders.
Sorry, yeah, and I didn't want to step on yours. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, and the last item on our action item agenda is the discussion and possible adoption of our updated bylaws.
Yes, back earlier this year, the board appointed an ad hoc committee of Mr. Godinez and Mr. Leja to review the bylaws along with myself and Mr. Owen. We made a number of times going through these. And what you have before you is their recommendations. There's both a red line version and the current version there. Not a whole lot of recommendations that are going on. A couple of them has to do with combining committees. Two of the committees being recommended to be combined is the Park Planning Committee and the Arena and Trails Committee. And the reason for that is when new developments coming along, it typically includes parks, obviously, but also a combination of either arenas or trails. And we're having to take it to two different committees. It just streamlines the process. It's not going to take away our designing input on parks, trails, or arena. It's going to streamline it and honestly probably make it more efficient for us in the long run. The other one is combining the Veterans Memorial Wall Committee into the Recreation and Facilities and Special Events Committee. Essentially, the Veterans Memorial Wall is a special event. One of the things the committee has, the Veterans Wall Committee wanted to see happen is the promotion of that year round. And by combining it with the recreation facilities and special events, it'll allow for it to be easier to promote it year round, along with all of our other activities going on. Those are the kind of the two major ones that are there. Some other stuff is just cleaning up some of the verbiage that is within there. Also, the recommendation, currently the board refers to Robert's Rules of Order for the running of our meeting. And the recommendation is to switch it to Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Mr. Owen can explain this a little better, but Rosenberg's Rules of Order is really the stripped down version. Bob?
A simplified version intended more for laypersons who are involved in smaller jurisdictions such as yours, as opposed to larger legislative bodies such as the Parliament in England.
For example, Robert's Rules of Order is 890 pages.
Yes.
Rosenberg's is 10. So
Simple is better.
simple is better.
Yeah, I think for everyone, yeah. sometimes better.
One of the things that came up even since we published this agenda, Mr. Owen was finishing up some review for us. And Section 7, Article 4 has to do with board member attendance. It's not entirely correct the way that it is written. And Bob actually did some review for us today and has some we have a couple different options on a way to go with that section. So if you give me a second here, I will pull that up for us. But Bob, you want to?
Sure. It is worded how it's intended to be worded. It is a section that essentially says if a board member fails to attend board meetings for 60 consecutive days, then their seat is vacated. And if their failure to appear is not permitted, or if there's not permission for it. It's a common, it's a provision of state law that applies to city councils, essentially. And it's been there for many, many years. It is not a section of the Public Resources Code intended for recreation and park districts. However, it was included in the bylaws. I'm not sure exactly when it was added, but it was before the last amendment in 2019. The question then becomes, is that something that A, that you want, and B, that is it enforceable? As to whether you want it, I can tell you its purpose is to avoid a situation where somebody just abandons their office without formally resigning, and therefore there's no vacancy created. They just stop showing up at meetings. That's what it's intended to make sure you don't get stuck with too long. And the other than that, the question would be, is it something that a court would enforce if push came to shove? And I believe they would. It's my opinion that an argument could easily be made that it should be. The reason I believe that it's not in the Public Resources Code is because many recreation and park districts only meet once every 3 months or once every 2 months. And so 60 days would clearly not suffice in that circumstance. You meet twice a month, and just like city councils are required to. And for that reason, I think it would be a reasonable and legitimate legislative act on your part to put it in your bylaws. So one option would be to remove it and say, we just don't need that rule. We're not worried about what happens if there's a person who fails to show up and abandons their office. The other would be to just leave it as is. It was then brought to my attention that Chairperson Byrne, who is currently undergoing medical issues that have kept her from the meeting, but who I don't believe intends at all to abandon her position, might be in violation of that if the next meeting she is able to attend is August 11th. Colby told me that would be 61 days. So if you want to keep that provision in the bylaws, but make sure it doesn't get enforced in a situation like that with Chairperson Byrne, you could simply grant permission for her absence tonight, and that would restart the 60-day clock. To do that, you would have to take a subsequent need item, which would mean a vote. Colby, I don't know if you had a chance to distribute my email to them.
No, I did not. I did not know if you wanted that distributed or not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Basically, the first motion would have to be that you determine there's a need for immediate action, because 61 days will elapse before Chairperson Byrd's opportunity to attend another regular meeting, and 2, that the need for the action came to the attention of the agency after the agenda was posted, which it did when it was brought to the attention of the general manager today. If that motion passes, you could have a second motion to grant permission for Chairperson Byrne's absence at tonight's meeting. Or you could leave it in there and not make either of those motions. Those are the 3 options.
Mr. Owen, if we do keep it in there, would that not be something we could then, the motion you were talking about with Chairperson Byrne, we'll save that till after we finish this item, correct? I mean, we don't need to deal with that right now.
You could do it right now or afterwards. I don't think it would matter.
Okay, I think I would prefer to do it afterwards, just because right now we're in the middle of the bylaws and to suddenly switch to something else and switch back, that seems confusing to me.
I have one other question. If you could elaborate to the board, basically how we would have to enforce this. As you explained it to me today, it's quite a cumbersome process.
Yeah, it's not clear that it's self-enforcing. In other words, let's say somebody violated it and then showed up after 60 days and challenged your ability to enforce it. You would then need to go get a court order that the seat is indeed vacant. And that would probably require that you bring what's called a quo warranto action. It's an action to challenge someone's right to hold a public office. And it requires approval of the state attorney general to file that in the first place. So you would have to go through 2 essentially legal proceedings. One, to request and obtain approval of the state attorney general to file a quo warranto action in the Superior Court, and municipal. And then second, an action filed and a judge determining, yes, it was more than 60 days. Yes, this rule's valid. Yes, the seat is vacated or not.
Goodness.
So yeah, it's not something that would be simply done. But having it in there is a good deterrent for people to not miss too many meetings also. So you need to weigh those things, I suppose.
Is how you explained that, how city councils or other bodies handle that situation, that process?
Yes. In the cities I've worked in, there was a pretty routine motion put on the consent calendar whenever any council member missed a meeting to excuse their missing the last meeting. And as long as that happened, the rule never comes into play, because it has to be 60 days unpermitted that you miss. So as long as permission is granted by the balance of the board, it's never an issue. And that's what we did in several.
I think Mr. Castellan's question was, if a council member for some reason missed more than 60 days of unexcused, they don't have to go through this whole process of the state attorney general, because they have that authority in the public resource code. We as a special district do not.
That's correct. It's not. I have seen cities get a quo warranto
It's not as cumbersome for them. How's that?
It's almost as cumbersome.
It's
Not a
not
lot more. There's just one less legal question. I mean, there's no question it applies to them. In our case, we would have to also argue that it's a reasonable provision in the bylaws. That's the only difference, really.
I have a question. When a board member comes on, a new board member, is there any way they are made aware of the importance of their meeting attendance other than reading the bylaws? Do we have any other documents when a new board member comes on that says, look, you know, it's your responsibility. This could be an action taken against you if you don't come to meetings. So if they, I know everybody's given a copy of the bylaws, but nobody really understands if somebody reads it.
Right.
So is there a way to have clear understanding for new board members that this is something that needs to be done?
Yeah, it's a good question, Ross. I believe, Colby, you have a
We do an
paper that
onboarding process with
explains-
other members.
that explains
sit
Brown
down.
Act and so forth.
Yeah, they explain the Brown Act and go through it, and we discuss the bylaws. I could very easily just make sure that this section is highlighted.
Right.
See, I recall this section because when I first came on the board, I was on the bylaws committee to review them. And I remember reading through that in the review, but prior to that, when I joined the board, I don't remember actually getting to that and seeing it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
And you know, another question I have is with trying to word this correctly. Chairperson Byrne is not asked for, I don't want to say permission, I don't know if that's the right word or not, you know, from the board to be able to take this time off. Is there something we can put in the bylaws that requires a board member to seek from the board 2 weeks notice? I mean, I realize that there are times when an emergency comes up and you can't give that, but it would be nice if we had something in there that says, hey, if you know you're not going to be available for a meeting or two, that you need to give at least 2 weeks notice prior, you know, to the rest of the board members. So this is not something that comes up after the fact. Is there a way we could do something with that in the bylaws?
You could put something like that in the bylaws. It would make the case I'm talking about one step more complicated when you get to court. In addition to saying this is a reasonable regulation to have in the bylaws, you'd have to also say, if you're relying on the failure to give notice, you'd have to also say this other provision is also a reasonable provision to have in the bylaws, which, yes, you could do it. It makes it a little more complicated, though. If you
Well, see, my thought behind it is it would make a new board member aware of the responsibility to have to attend meetings right from the start, you know. I'm not really sure how you word that. That's your job.
Well, I think we already have a piece we give people about the Brown Act, and I think if it's not there already, which I suspect it's not, that we could add language that recites this and makes its importance clear.
Yeah, it's just, you know, since I've been on here, we've had previous instances. Prior to my fellow board members being on the board, we had an instance where a board member had to have a medical procedure, but didn't tell anybody. Just didn't show up in a meeting. We didn't know what was going on. Meanwhile, another board member was also having to have a medical procedure. That board member was up front and let us all know. But the other board member stayed silent. They ended up being out at the same time. We had a meeting. The other three of us had to come to that meeting. One of us was deathly ill, an extreme amount of pain. And we're desperately trying to get through this meeting because that's the only quorum that we had, so that this poor person in agony could leave.
I think I remember that meeting.
Yeah, and it just wouldn't have, perhaps the person who was letting us know they were having a procedure, had they known the other person was having a procedure, could have rescheduled theirs or something. And so, I mean, it is, you know, I don't want to imply this is a problem now that has never been a problem before. It's an ongoing issue that if we don't know, and you know, you don't have to tell anybody, you can just say, I can't come to that meeting that night. I don't
Right.
care why, just let us know. And now we also know that we should be giving permission to miss meetings so that we don't end up having some weird legal problem. So,
Oh, good.
no, that was it.
Another question, Bob, if we do this, people are not always gonna wanna say why they need the time off publicly. Would it or would it not be a Brown Act violation? Let's say if I decide I need to not attend the next meeting, but it's for my personal reasons. Since it is not a board discussion, I'm assuming it would not be a Brown Act violation for me to email the entire board privately, so it doesn't come out publicly why I need or to request that time off. Is that correct?
Technically, yes, I think as
And we'll run out violation.
but it
If you're not, we do that with the check register now. It is not a Brown Act because we're not discussing it.
It's not a chain though.
as long as you don't develop some collective concurrence on something you're going to decide, and that makes me very nervous because
Okay, well, then if we can't, we can't. That's why I asked the
So
question.
it's just best to let the general manager know if you're not going to be in town, or
Right.
you're not going to be able to be at the meeting. I think
And-
that's what we should do.
and to Kim's question or point, I think that we would be best served to simply put together at an administrative level some notice to new board members. Here's the Brown Act thing. Here's this. And you should let the board know if you're not going to be able to make a meeting as early as you reasonably can. Something to that effect for the reasons you've given, as opposed to putting it in as a rule in the bylaws. You follow the difference? It wouldn't be something that's enforceable, but it would be something you could ask for as a collegial gesture of good faith. And I know you won't always get it that way, but
Right, that's why I suggested 2 weeks, 2 weeks or a week, prior, but I realize sometimes things come up and you can't always give that amount of time. I get that, so.
right.
I just want to make sure that, the new board member comes on, that they are fully aware of all these things.
Yeah.
And the importance of attending meetings. That's really, to me, why we're here.
Agreed.
Is to attend meetings. My personal thought, Madam Chairman, is to leave this section in just in case. Because if somebody does come in and say, hey, I'm moving out of state, and they just walk away, and we need a recourse of action to
Yeah.
be able to handle that. So I don't think we should remove it or change it.
What do you, Jim?
Unfortunately, Bob, I think Ross's example, moving out of state, once they have legally moved, that is an abandonment, correct?
That's it. Yeah. There's a different code section that addresses that, but
Oh,
Somebody just stopped showing up, that's a difference.
they could move to Eureka and have the same effect
Yeah,
in state.
okay.
okay, I just wanted to bring that section up, I know we talked at length about it, it has impacted us in the past.
Yeah, I think we should leave that section in.
Okay, perfect.
The other question I had, Kobe, about what was discussed, and I'm sure you remember.
Well, you said, I want to make sure that the committee members both have their opportunity to discuss this.
Well, one of the things that we discussed, and we decided to not address it as a committee, but address it as a full board, was do we want to continue with the rotation for board president, vice president, or do we want to go back the way it was prior to 4 years ago or 6 years ago? Trying to remember how many years.
Five.
Yeah. So that was something that we felt we didn't want to try to make is just the 2-member committee, that should be something the entire board should discuss.
Where is that at?
It's section.
Board organization. Oh, there it is.
What's
On page 7, section 6 of
Page 7.
Article 4.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with us having a rotation. I'm trying to remember, it used to be a policy, and then for some strange reason, we put it in the bylaws.
It was, so the history of this was, about 5 years ago, a board member requested a policy be considered for the selection of the president and vice president. The board had a history in the past. There was one individual that was president for like
15 years.
15 years straight or something like that. I presented a number of different options that were out there. There's no great answer, no great solution, to be honest. When this proposal that's here in front of you was approved, it was a 3-2 vote. And a lot of good discussion, arguments both ways for it that were out there. Me personally, I don't have a problem with any of it. This is the board, the board's decision. If it's an annual election, if it's a rotation, if it's pulling a name out of hat, there's all kinds of different ways you can go about doing this. But it's never was, it was a controversial vote at the time. As it sits right now, there's 5 board members. There's no guarantee that a board member would ever be sitting president. It's just,
They're only on the board.
if you're only on the board
4 years.
for one term, pretty good chance you would be, but if you come in an odd year, there's a chance you may never get to be president. One of the things, I just kind of like to reiterate is the board president's a ceremonial position. It gives no additional power over anybody else other than you assign the committees at the beginning of the year. Beyond that, you run the meeting, and some of you may argue there's a lot of reading you got to do and talking in some of these meetings, and that may be a downfall. The policy does allow that a member can pass on their rotation if they want, and it would just go to the next person in the rotation. So, but this was something that was discussed at the committee level and felt it needed to be discussed at the full board level. I don't want to speak for either one of you, but I don't think either of you had heartburn over it per se, but wanted to make sure it was something that was addressed and everybody had the ability to weigh in.
Or because it was so controversial. Yeah, so split. I remember a lot of arguments.
Mr. Godin?
I mean, the way the rotation stands, I would have to be re-elected to be president. But as Mr. Duguid mentioned, it's really a ceremonious position. It's not something that I'll lose sleep over. So I'm fine with the status quo, but again, we wanted to open it up to the rest of the board so we could hear arguments and perhaps.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. What I think I did not realize is that because of this and the way it is in the bylaws, it is automatic. So we have taken away from ourselves any ability to say, oh, maybe not, if there is any particular reason why a person couldn't be president. So whatever. I mean, I think, everybody we've ever had as president has always been able to run a meeting and it's not a tragedy or anything like that. So I don't have a problem with it. If we leave it in the bylaws, we just pull it out and make it a policy again. If we do leave it in the bylaws though, under the list of numbers, it says the cycle of officers repeat as long as this policy is in effect. Well, it's not a policy if it's in the bylaws. So it just would be as long as this is in effect. We're gonna leave it in the bylaws. Anything else? Anybody else? Either way?
I'm fine with it as it is.
Okay.
Just, my question is, when the term, I guess in December, will we have to vote on it as a board or just automatically
No, it just automatically happens.
the board?
The only thing that you vote on currently is the secretary.
That's what I'm saying. The way it stands now, it just happens automatically.
Okay.
There's no vote.
Only with your wording correction, I think it's just on it is.
The nice thing is it does take a lot of trauma out of it. So we don't have to sit there and stare at each other like, who's gonna make them, who should we do now?
That was one of the problems. Nobody wanted to make the motion to make that, I don't want to nominate X if they don't want it, or if I nominate X and Y has been on the board longer, is it going to cause a rift? That was one of the advantages to doing this. It eliminated it, streamlined the process. Going through in other agencies, and Bob can attest to this, in cities and electing the mayor and all that, it can be a very long process with a number of votes and no seconds and.
It's a pain.
Yeah.
And it just becomes so fraught with the way we just don't even have to worry about it.
Clears that up.
Anything else? I had some questions or comments. I hate to tell you, I do read these things. On page 6, and maybe Bob can tell me, it's 3.3, a tie vote is considered a no action vote by the district board.
Correct.
And then, it says, that if we have a tie vote because someone is absent, it is brought back before the board automatically. I was a little surprised at that. I mean, to me, a vote's a vote and there shouldn't be any automatic. I mean, if the board chooses to bring it back to have a vote when the other person is back from wherever they are, that's fine. But to me, to say it's automatically coming back implies that that vote we had meant nothing. So then what was the point? I think it should just be the vote is, and it's done. And then if the board, a majority of the board decides to bring it back, they bring it back. But it shouldn't be automatic to me. It shouldn't be automatic. That's what I'm saying. How does anybody else feel about that?
So the board can choose to bring it back for discussion or,
Oh, of course.
you know, what.
And then any member of the board could request to have something brought back.
Right.
Anything to be continued to the next meeting when the full board is there, so that would be the solution to that. If you're
Also,
waiting for
if it
a full
was-
board, you just continue the item to the next meeting.
But it's just kind of odd to me that we would go, oh, we had a tie vote. Oh, don't worry, it's coming back. It's like, wait a minute.
This is an intent, I think, to do what Ross was saying, that it just automatically comes back. We could replace the words will automatically with may. The item may be brought back before the board at the next meeting. Doesn't matter to me.
How about the item may be brought back before the board, period, and just leave it at that. It doesn't have to be at the next meeting. It could be at a future meeting. It doesn't matter.
If that's what everyone
Or
wants.
the item can be brought
Fine
back if
with
the
that.
board chooses to do so. How's that? How do y'all feel about it?
Is it automatically? That's
Instead of automatically? Are you guys okay with getting rid of automatically? Okay.
So just for the board's clarification, we're taking notes on all this stuff. And I'm assuming you are agreeing to this, so at the end, I'm assuming a motion will be made with the changes that we've discussed.
Okay.
That works for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. That we don't have to line item each single one of them.
And then page 7, if we're getting rid of the cycle of officer, as long as this policy is in effect.
Yep.
Oh, I was just curious why the committee put in on page 8, when possible, the director should serve on any one committee for no more than 2 consecutive years. I was just curious what the thought process was.
Oh, just because I brought that up because I had already served on the Budget and Personnel Committee for 2 years. And then I was put on it for a 3rd year. And I think that every member of the board should have the opportunity to serve on different committees. And for the same reason that if there's no reelection, they might not get an opportunity, especially if I've already been on for 3 years. So I thought there should be a limit to how long an individual director could serve on the same committee.
I think you also said to put a wording in there in case someone had an expertise and wanted to continue on that committee.
We have a lot less committees now, so that's good and bad.
Yeah.
I think our committees have been tightened up now, so that every committee is kind of, for lack of a better term, a good committee. Before, we had some committees that never met, so being put on one of those committees was like being put on no committee. Now, I think every committee is important and good and does important work, and so I don't think anybody should feel bad about it being on any given committee. And you will never see me fighting to be on the budget committee, so feel free. So I think everybody should be on the budget committee. I'm in agreement with Ross.
So Julian, were you looking at some, I vaguely remember that conversation. I don't remember wanting to add something about expertise. But I do remember that conversation.
It was just like a comment, not so much to add that sort of wording. It was just,
So if we had an accountant that wanted to be on the budget committee and nobody else wanted to, and I think that's why we came up with the when possible.
Right, yeah, we didn't want to make it an absolute, but we wanted to kind of make it a,
that's what.
you know, this should work this way, you know, kind of thing, or.
Yeah, that nobody gets the choice of being on a given committee forever, especially if other people want to be on that committee. So, yeah. Okay. Down at the bottom, we changed it to Park Trails and Arena / Planning and Development Committee. It seemed a little awkward to me. I was thinking we should just call it the Facility Planning and Development Committee. Because all of those things are facilities. Parks are facilities, trails are facilities, arenas are facilities. Just call it the Facility Planning and Development Committee.
So the trails would just be under it without.
Yes, all the stuff that's there, yeah, trails, arenas, parks, all of that would be in that committee. That committee would
Anything
just
that
be,
we are responsible.
yeah, any
for.
facility that we're responsible for planning and developing. Are you all, I just thought that was better than this really long name.
More concise is great.
Yeah, is that okay? Okay, so that's okay. So everywhere that is, that would need to be changed. And I kind of have the same thing on 3.3 recreation, special events and facility policy. I was thinking we should get rid of special because really that committee's over all events, not just special events. So what difference does it make if it says special? So just recreation, events and facility policy committee. And then everywhere, and then the funny thing is it never said anything about events. So then like recreation and park events and programs as a whole, policies for use of facilities, events and programs, including fee changes or charges, policies for co-sponsorship of recreation and park events, programs and other agencies and groups. And then the last one, to recommend the addition of new honorees for the Veterans Memorial. Well, start on to that just roughly. Anyway, what y'all think about it? Yeah, no problem. No problem. Okay,
Kim, would you share your notes with us?
sure. Thank you. And then on the next page, I was asking a couple of questions on page 11, and that's under the Park Maintenance and Safety Committee. And on D, it says may review from time to time safety policies, blah, 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 blah. I think it just said should say reviews from time to time. I don't think we should give ourselves an out. Oh, maybe we can, maybe. So we should review it. And then the next one, E, I asked about that, and Mr. DeWitt just said we should just remove that one. Assist in making recommendations to board policy by additions or changes for board consideration. I'm like, any board policy? He's like, yeah, that just should go. And then the final one, budget recommendations, he thought should go too, because then you start becoming developing a potential Brown Act problem. If you've got two different committees talking about budget issues, all budget issues should be under the budget committee. Yeah. I mean, they can say, we recommend the budget committee consider buying X truck or whatever, but they shouldn't be looking at budget.
And then on the red line right here, 3.4 should be all red line. The trails and everything.
Oh, yes, 3.4 should be redlined out, yes. Anyway, are you all okay with those things?
Are you saying remove I out of 3.5?
Yes.
E and I.
E and I. Got it.
Section 2, duties of the district board, which is on page 13. D, those members of the board of directors who have served a minimum of 6 months on the board may perform an annual evaluation. Shouldn't that be will? What concerns me is that you could, and we have had board members who don't like doing evaluations. It just makes them uncomfortable. And they'll like say, oh, I'm not going to do it. And it's like, no, I need you to do it. If there's no may in this world, it's a will.
But if you put will, don't we have to do it every 6 months?
No, it's not every 6 months. And it would be annually. If you've served on the board for at least 6 months, you get to participate in the annual evaluation of the general manager.
Yeah, I think the purpose of that was just to say that if you haven't been here 6 months, you probably should not be participating in the review.
Because you don't know.
So yeah, you could change may to will if you wanted.
I don't know. How do y'all feel about that? You care? Does it matter? If you don't care?
I'm not married to the name.
Yeah, you're what? Okay, so we won't worry about that one then. I think that's close to all I had. Oh, the attendance at meetings for the attorney, we redlined that.
Page is that on?
Page 30. Neither the general manager nor board member shall purposely try to cause legal counsel to be a necessary participant in every board meeting. The board shall reserve the right to direct the regularity of the use of legal counsel at board meetings. I'm okay with the first line going, but I just thought, do we want to retain to ourselves the ability to direct the regularity of the use of food council or ordinance.
What page is that on?
30.
On page 30, I don't see it, so.
It's under section 3, attendance at meetings,
It's on the screen too, Russ.
on the screen. here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
For some reason, my page numbers are not.
It's 98 on the PDF.
Yeah. Oh, let's see, mine's.
Yeah, I hear you. It was my understanding, this was something that was put in by a previous board a number of years ago.
When there was a previous legal counsel, I might add.
And there was some discrepancy as to if it was needed or not. The financial situation at the district was not as solvent as it is right now. And
They're trying to eliminate costly attorney
yes,
usage.
So by eliminating this line, it still doesn't retract the right to use the council, right?
That's correct. You guys are the client. You retain the right to direct my use or non-use, as the case may be.
Oh, okay. We retain it, not because we employ you or contract with you. I see.
Correct.
Gotcha.
what if we just kept it in there, but something to the effect of it is the desire of the board to have legal counsel at any and all meetings they deem necessary.
And leave it at that.
Leave it at that. And then there's times in which Mr. Owen's not available and he contacts me and says, you know, I mean, I can't attend this meeting, looking at the agenda. I don't know if there's something you need from me ahead of time or something. And, you know, that's been kind of under my discretion. I think that it probably, for the most part, has worked well for us, but I want your input.
Yeah, no, what you said is fine.
Yeah, I think that's
Fine with
better.
that? Okay. And I swear that.
Bob, you're fine with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think back then you had one board member insisting the lawyer be at every meeting and others thinking he's not really needed, we could save money, and so they adopted this rule. I think is what happened.
And remember, at times our meetings went till midnight on a regular basis.
Oh, well, no, we don't do that.
Okay, so Colby, you have the language to replace that with?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm fine with that.
that was it.
Page 43, did we just get rid of the whole appendix? We're all listing all the perks on the place.
Yes, one thing we talked about, the reality is having that list is not necessary to put in the bylaws. The rate at which we're adding parks, this would be something that we adopted on a regular basis. So we just removed it. It's something readily available on our website. We have flyers right here in the, you know, the district went 20 years without adding a new park. You know, we haven't gone 20 months in the last 7 or 8 years without adding a new park. So it's not required for this document, you know, to list our facilities.
Yeah, that we did that because originally it was listed somewhere else in the bylaws that made absolutely no sense, so we came up with the appendix to make it have more sense, but I agree with what you're saying.
Don't have an issue with it, no? Anybody else have a problem with it? Okay. Just was something else that was never up to date. So how do you want us to make a motion?
Bob, they can make a motion, something to the effect of approving the proposed bylaws with the recommended changes.
Correct.
Or we can bring it back with the changes for one final review, whatever you guys want to do.
Is that discussion from fellow board members? What would you like to happen?
I think we can go ahead and approve it as long as the recommended changes have all been documented properly.
Okay.
With the section on the attendance where that will affect it, will we have to take action on?
Oh, yeah, we'd probably.
Yeah, you can do it after this. I was just going to say, if you just approve it as amended this evening, we will then supply a red line version after the fact, so you can assure yourselves that the changes we've discussed have been made.
Okay, I move the board of directors approve and adopt the updates to the district bylaws with the recommended changes discussed this evening.
Perfect.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, Mr. Owen, we'll turn it back over to you for the
Okay.
whatever it is. Yes.
So, yes, so as you just approved the bylaws and they have that provision that we discussed, if you want to excuse the absence of the chairperson, the first motion would be a motion to determine that there's a need for immediate action on the item. And the reason would be because otherwise their 61 days will transpire before the next regular meeting. And two, the need for the action came to the attention of the agency after the agenda was posted. And that motion would need to be passed by a 2/3 vote, which means 3 out of the 4 of you. Is there such a motion? Anyone?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
The need for immediate action and the fact that the need for action came to the attention of the agency after the posting of the agenda.
Right.
I will second that.
I recorded.
So make sure I get it right.
Okay, any other comments or, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And what is the next motion we need to make? That we need to excuse?
To grant permission for Chairperson Burns' absence at tonight's meeting.
Okay. I will move that we grant Chairperson Byrne grant Chairperson Byrne permission for her absence at tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes 4-0.
I opposed to that.
Oh, motion passes 3-1. Sorry. So, on.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Bob, just for clarification, this would be item 5.6 on the agenda,
Or is it just a second?
or is an addition to 5.5?
I was listening it as 3 different motions at the end of it. What's the best way to record this on?
I would have it as 2 motions following 5.5
Okay,
Okay.
because it's related to it.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next is general manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. As Christine told you earlier, recreation, summer's wrapping up here. It's been a successful summer. I don't want to keep you any longer, but staff's done a phenomenal job getting through this point. We are experiencing some difficulties because of the pandemic still. We've had to postpone August 2nd's market night that was supposed to take place next week because of some uptick we're seeing here at the district right now with our staff, and we just don't have the staff physically to be able to put that event on next week. So unfortunately, that has been canceled, but it will continue on the 16th of August. So please update your calendar. One of the big things I just want to share with the board, I apologize for not having this available for you right away. Give me a quick second, I can pull it up. A couple months ago, we approved as part of the budget, the contract with GoGov for the district's app. We're replacing the eCitizen app. And we have been working on that and haven't completed. So I think this one looks for you. Here is our new app, JRPD Connect. It is available now in the App Store for Google and Apple. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to download it. eCitizen, which we have been using for the past 5 or 6 years, does go away this Sunday. So Monday, we have a huge campaign that will be going out social media wise. We have ordered business cards that look like essentially the phone with the app on it, with the QR code built into it that all staff will have at all facilities, and all of our maintenance staff handed out to people in the park as they ask questions on different things. With the app, we get a lot more functionality than the old app here. As you can zoom in, the start request there is obviously to report a concern at the facilities. But those other, 6 items down listed below at the district website, special events, program registration, facility rentals, park maps, trails maps, and the current agenda. Those are all things that staff now has the ability to upload. We can do that from the website, through the GoGov website, and they're not instantly uploaded on the app. It takes about 15 minutes, but they're those would change on your app as you open it up. We also have the ability for push notifications. It's really designed for a large municipality if they needed to push out emergency information for something, where we would do it more for special event marketing and recreation class marketing. So people using our app that are within the district boundaries, we can send out a push, hey, don't forget a concert in the park tomorrow night or something like that. A great feature for us. But just physically being able to, from the app, click and link to go to program registration, facility booking, stuff like that's gonna be huge for us. So we're excited for this. eCitizen was not a horrible app, but it just did not meet all of our needs as the different agencies have grown. The city of Eastvale, the city of Rupa Valley, and JCSD have all gone away from it already. We were the last one to get off that platform. One of the nice functionalities of this, we're all doing a lot of the similar things. And if for some reason a graffiti request is sent to the city for something that's in one of our parks, they can reassign it to us on the back end. The resident won't necessarily know the difference. As eCitizen, we didn't really have that ability. And if there was we got a JCSD park for some reason, we'd have to physically take a screenshot of it, print it as a PDF and email it over to them. The resident, we closed it out in our system and they're like, well, you never took care of the graffiti. There wasn't a way to say this has been reassigned to JCSD or anything like that. So it's just a much more streamlined, user-friendly content. And frankly, if you guys haven't downloaded it yet, please play with it. We need the practice on our end too, but it's literally 3 clicks for the residents. You see if something wrong in a park or a trail, you open the app, you click start request. You have to sign in for the first time and stuff like that. You take a picture, you verify the location, you can add a quick note, and you hit send. Very simple. The old app asks all kinds of different questions. It can be submitted through your account or anonymously, however you want. If it's done under your account, you'll receive updates that if it's graffiti, it's been painted out. There'll be a picture of the graffiti painted out app uploaded and added with it. So it's a very user-friendly and great way to communicate. So we're excited about that. And we have a couple more features we're still getting trained on. But so again, starting Monday, you'll see a lot of promotion coming to this app from the district, and we'll be promoting it all of our activities going forward. When the adults come up to our booth and want the giveaway, we're gonna give the kids the cute little fun stuff. The adults want stuff, they're not gonna play a game for it, they're gonna download the app. Big things along those lines. That's how we're gonna help make sure this word gets out on that.
I think it it's easier and quicker than the website.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
much faster getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. It takes you right. If you want to go.
I haven't sent a request in yet, but I played with all the other aspects.
If you want to go to look at the trails, it's 1 click from there. It takes you right to our trails page. And it's not, click here, click here, click here. It's really good. So we'll watch that and see how it's used. We get analytics on it, see how people are using the app and what's their navigation and stuff. So we can, move things up or down the list as needed. So. Other than that, I would encourage you all to attend next Tuesday, August 2nd. It's at Harada Park in Eastvale, JCSD's facility, but it is National Night Out. That's an event the district participates with between the 3 cities, Rupa Valley, Eastvale, and Norco. It's Eastvale's turn to host it, but it's National Night On. It is really put on Riverside County Sheriff's. Great event to come out, see your public safety, sheriff's, fire, as well as the other agencies bringing out all of their fun toys, showing what we have available for the public. We held it last year at Vernola. It was a great turnout. Said this one will be at Harada Park in Eastvale next Tuesday. So hope to see you all there. With that, to be available for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. DeGuid? No? Okay. Board comments. I'll start with Mr. Godinez.
Yes, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the last 2 concerts in the park. I was recovering from COVID. I'm much better now, though, thankfully. But as always, I'm pretty sure staff held a great event, and we'll have lots of fun. I'm glad our summer was successful. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going. And yeah, thank you to staff for everything they do. And thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you. Mr. Legion?
Yeah, I was able to, my wife and I were able to attend the last concert in the Parker River Band. It was a great event. Everybody that I saw was just having a blast. The kids were running around like crazy. I'm glad I don't have little kids I have to chase after anymore. I don't think I can do it. The food was good, the band was good, not my particular style of music, but they were a good band, you know, they were well. The vendor booth were great and well attended. So, yeah, great concert series this summer. Maybe we can even add more next year. See how they work. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I like the new app. I think it's great. I downloaded as soon as you sent out the email on it, I downloaded it, started messing around with it. I have not had the opportunity to send a request yet, but I'm sure it will happen one day. One other thing I like to mention is as I drive around town in the evenings and go different places, I have noticed when I go by one of our parks that the playgrounds are full. And I'm talking like 7:30 at night, they're just packed with people messing around with the equipment. And I just think that that's fantastic. That does me good to see that kind of attendance at our parks. Thank you.
Mr. Castellan?
Yeah, so I'd like to go, the concerts in the park this year were great as well. I attended a couple, and just from those that I attended, from the vendors to the bands and the turnout, I think, obviously, the interest from last year because they're coming out of COVID, so that's a good sign. So hopefully next year, we're able to keep that momentum up. Yeah, maybe we can add some more, we'll see. But yeah, kudos to all the staff for putting all the great work on that as well. And thank you again to all our guests who gave presentations and to the public for coming out today. Thank you. That will be we're gonna give an update on the public comments.
After the meeting.
That would be after the meeting.
After the meeting.
And so that's all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, was able to go to 4 out of 5 concerts at the park, but since our last meeting, we had 2 concerts at the park, really enjoyed them. The band at Agate in particular was really, really good. Really good. And thanks to staff for getting that new app up, just make us more responsive to the public, and I really appreciate that. One thing that I want to bring up, apparently a new book is coming out or has just come out about the history of pickleball of all things. And I think that has really pushed a lot of publicity out, a lot of stories out about pickleball. And I'm aware of pickleball, but in reading these stories, what I was not aware of about pickleball is how across the ages it is something that is appealing to everyone from children to older folks, and how people, even if they have some physical difficulty, can play pickleball. In one story I was reading, the woman was talking about arriving to play pickleball, and one guy was limping up to the pickleball court, and she thinks he's injured himself, right? So she goes, "Oh, did you injure yourself?" And he says, "No, I have Parkinson's." And then he and his partner proceed to just whoop the you know what out of her and her partner. So even someone who had Parkinson's, who had a limp, could come play pickleball, play it successfully, and have a great time. And I just really think that that's something that we as a board need to consider. The nice thing is pickleball, 4 pickleball courts are about equivalent to 1 tennis court. So we're not talking a large amount of space or a large expenditure of funds in order just to play a pickleball court. Okay, fine. Not a large amount of space to put in 4 pickleball courts. Anyway, it's just, I think, something that we should consider. I don't mean that pickleball should take away from anything else, but it is something that is apparently very popular, and we're a city of over 100,000 and have additional area in Eastville. I have a feeling there's going to be a few people in our area that might want to. Anyway, no committee reports, I don't think. Future committee meetings? No. Agenda items for future board meetings?
I don't have any requests.
Okay. I just realized if we're changing our committees, do we just stay on the committees that we're on now, and then we'll change
We'll
them
look
at
at
the end of the
that,
year.
how that, I don't think it made I think park planning and revision trails were the same two people. If I remember correctly, is that motion, Ms. Johnson,
Okay,
right?
yeah, and Veterans Memorial Wall was,
Veterans
Done for the
Memorial Wall
year.
goes into special events, which are also the same. I will look at that, and we can pour that over to Ms. Byrne to, if there's anything that needs to be changed, we can
okay,
make that recommendation.
all right. Okay, that being said,
8:78.
7:58. Oh, my son's so good. Okay, we'll adjourn our meeting at 7:58. Thank you all very much. Thanks for coming.
Madam Chairperson? Can you hear me?
That's been a long day.
Yeah.
Oh, shall we wait for you?